looks like this broadcast was deleted on Facebook. Tries creating a new broadcast or just remove the destination from the broadcast and re-add it. I'm confused. All right, let's see if I can do it. Hi, everybody. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube and streaming platforms. And I am so excited to be here with you today. It's Trish Carr from Women's Prosperity Network. And it's time for another episode of Sister to Sister. And this is the platform we have frank conversations around racism in our country and around the world. And this last couple of weeks has been very interesting here in the United States in that we've had two trials that were affected by police shootings and um, protests. And it's been an interesting couple of weeks. And I'm so excited to have with me today one of my favorite guests, and that's Dr. Heather Tucker. You may remember Dr. Heather has been a guest on the show before. She is an extraordinary woman who is the CEO of Another Level Living. And her business is all about creating success that gives you business and life harmony. And it really is about harmony. We're all striving for harmony in our lives and in our world. And there has been quite a bit of disharmony lately. And we wanted to talk about it. So Dr. Heather is here, and she really has expertise in areas such as emotional intelligence, which you may have heard of, is also referred to as EQ. And it is, how do we deal with life? How do we deal with people? What are our perceptions? How do we act on them? And many people say that EQ is more important than IQ. And her expertise helps people really balance their lives as well as create businesses with authentic leadership. And she's into digital marketing. She's got it all. So let me bring on Dr. Heather, who is also an amazing mom, an amazing woman. Dr. Heather Tucker, it's so nice to have you with us today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Aloha, everyone. Aloha, Trish. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Yes, me too. And for those of you watching on Facebook, if you would go ahead and hit the share button and share this to your page so that other people can watch it as well, because this is a frank conversation. And sometimes frank conversations can be a little uncomfortable, but it's only as we walk through the discomfort that we get to the other side. And it's having conversations like these around the reality of what life is like for people of color. It's those kinds of conversations that make a difference and that make inroads in making the the change that we all want to see in the world, and that is that we are all seen as humans. Brown humans, yellow humans, red humans, green humans, skinny ones, fat ones, whatever. And Dr. Heather, I know that this. We talked a few weeks ago. Well, we talked right after the first verdict, which was the Rittenhouse verdict,
Yeah.
which was the young man, 17 years old, who shot three people. Two of them died in Kenosha, Wisconsin, during a riot after the murder of a young man. And I actually had, Travis Michael, actually. Oh, no, that was Ahmad. Jacob Blake, forgive me. Jacob Blake was the young man who was murdered by the police, shot 7 times in the back. And of course, that was last year. And of course, there were people who were demonstrating as a result. And unfortunately, some of those demonstrations end up being escalations. And in this case, that was what happened. So Rittenhouse, who lived in Illinois, got in his car and drove to Kenosha, Wisconsin, across the border, with his AK-15 rifle. I'm thinking 17-year-old boy, AK or AR-15. I don't even know what it is. I know there's a 15 in it. drives and he got into a scuffle, and he actually killed two people and injured a third, and he was found innocent by self-defense. So you can imagine that many people were disappointed in that. The following week, we had a verdict in the case of Ahmaud Aubrey, who was murdered in Georgia because he was jogging in his neighborhood and he saw a house that was under construction and nobody lived there. So he went in to see what are they doing in the house under construction. And a man and his son and a third man didn't like that, so they shot him and killed him with a shotgun. They were found guilty. So Heather, when we were talking last week, I was a little shaken up by all of what was going on, and I know that you've had a lot of thoughts about it as well. So where are you at? Where are you? Where are your thoughts? I know you've been really thinking about it.
Yeah. Trish, first of all, thank you so much for bringing this to light with your show and expressing, because if we do not talk about these things, if we don't bring clarity and understanding, and even when we can understand to these things, then it's hard to move forward. So I want to talk a little bit about from the beginning. Let's talk about this first case. And this first case became with Kyle actually came from when they shot Jacob Blake in the back with the police
Hmm.
interaction. Now, so many this is like probably the hundreds of times that we've seen something like this in the world of cameras. This is something that the population, the minority, well, we call them minority, but really there is no minority. We're all have a unique and special message in this world. But this is where um this is something we've been dealing with for quite some time. The part of not knowing where where we fit in or where we're less than. And then of course it sparks anger in the rest of America. I remember being angry so much when Trayvon Martin happened and Sandra Bland, and I felt like it was this reoccurring pattern. And Trisha, was something that it did to my soul that made me realize I could no longer continue this pattern. I wanted to go out there and I wanted to riot and well, not riot, protest. I wanted to protest with everyone else because I was just so frustrated about what's happening. And what I realized, there was a message that came. First, my husband was like, "Yeah, you're not going down there. It's not safe." But then the other thing that came was God had said, "You know what? There's a better way." And I'm like, "What do you mean there's a better way?" Um, because it really has to do with a lot of miscommunication and a lot of uh, expectations and bias that people have just by, and discrimination what people have just by what they look like. So you can imagine, um, what do you do when you feel like sometimes you're always a target? I'm married to an amazing, handsome, tall, dark, and handsome black man.
Oh yeah.
And because he's tall and because he's dark and because he's handsome, it's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen when he walks in? And the thing is, where did those assumptions come from? People, we're not born to hate or to be discriminatory or to look at someone a certain way. We're kind of taught that, not just by not even if it's not talked about, but also in society, right? um I grew up in the country, right? So there's not a lot of diversity, but I remember, even though no one ever said it, I remember feeling less than, not good enough, or having to work harder because of the color of my skin or looked differently. And the reality of what I learned, especially after it was the Trayvon Martin situation that led me to start this company, was that all of the expectations and judgments and perceptions of other people do not mean anything if we don't let it. So it's about how can we increase our awareness? How can we make sure that we're able to positively and congruently communicate with uh, with other people. And I feel like there's a lot of skills that are lacking in these professions where you're interacting with the community, in terms of leadership, in terms of diversity, in terms of being able to de-escalate emotions. Um, like looking at maybe like the gun as a last resort. There was so much with this case. So I just wanted to highlight and talk about this part, about what led to this event. Now, our response is to riot. Our response is to not riot, but to protest, to be angry. And the question that I want each of you to ask, if you felt that way, because I do understand, and I do appreciate that feeling, is how can you turn this pain into purpose? I asked the question, what can I do about this? And that's what led to showing people the way to empower themselves and empower other people. Something greater than I could have ever imagined. So there is no equal. There is no equality. A lot of people think that we should be equal. The reality is every one of us is unique. Every one of us has a greatness within us.
Yeah.
And sometimes that greatness or that light that's within us might trigger the anger in someone else. Now, when it comes to guns, they talk about how guns don't kill people, people kill
People
people.
kill people. Yeah.
I hear that, and the person, if you do not have the capacity and the ability to be emotionally stable, mentally and emotionally stable, wise, right, like making sure that you're using your weapon out of, like, the 17-year-old does not really have that concept. If he's sitting here crying and boo-hooing on stage, that let me know that he had no capacity to be able to carry a gun at that point, at any
Right.
point in his life.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. First of all, 17. Where did he get that gun? And the scary thing about it was that, in fact, there's a lawsuit in Kenosha about this, is that basically the police deputized anybody who came down to help during these protests.
Hmm.
The police supposedly, they looked the other way, but not really. They were happy to have the help. And that to me was, it's just very scary. The other thing about the Rittenhouse trial. Now, listen, I wasn't in the courtroom. I didn't read all the transcripts. Great that he was found innocent. Good for him. Wonderful. Maybe he truly did fear for his life. He must have. There were 12 people who heard everything and decided that that was true. But the thing that got me in this trial was the judge and how the judge skewed the case. So, for example, the people who were shot, and there were three of them, Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, both of those were murdered, and the third person was injured. They were not allowed to be referred to as victims. To me, this was the biggest thing. They were not allowed to be referred to as victims in the courtroom. Every time you would speak about them, you had to call them rioters. Now, doesn't that exacerbate the tensions and emotions? You have to call them rioters. First of all, the whole concept of rioting and what goes on and how that happens, there's got to be a better way than sending in guns. There's got to be, because it's the guns that actually cause the problems many times. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not here to, discuss that right now. And the whole thing is a bigger problem. It's a
So,
bigger, go ahead.
well, I'm glad that you talked about that, because our topic is that justice, right? You know, and yes, that's when it comes to the courtroom, there's a huge disparity between how people are treated based on their, like, the color of their skin. If the if Kyle was black, would he have been given so much mercy? If he was Hispanic, would he have been given so much mercy?
Yeah.
Um, the problem with the court of law and the justice system is that it's not what I want subjective, right? Based on what we think, as more as um and so what is the mentality and the mindset behind this judge? What are the preconceived notions? Especially when you're in a place of power like that, it is even more important for you to be able to be neutral, for you to be able to be really the best character at the core.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
I don't
yeah,
think
there
that happened.
no. And you know what? It's a lot of times that doesn't happen.
Hmm.
I would see I got a really big awareness of what the court system was like because I started seeing that awareness of, this there's two crimes. One person commits this crime and the other person commits this similar crime. One, this person is black, this person is white. The black person gets 15, 20, 30 years. The
Yeah.
white person gets probation.
Yeah.
And that's across the board.
Yeah. And you can see that in drug cases in particular. In drug
Mhm.
cases, there's such a disparity between white and black. And if you look at, I mean, obviously, how many black men are in jail, and there was a great documentary on that and how Three Strikes You're Out got more people in jail and the disparities between white and black. And that's the problem. It's just we don't even know, right? So you were brought up as a black girl and I was brought up as a white girl, and I mean these things don't even enter my mind because I was socialized as white. So perfect example is OJ Simpson. Okay, so it's a long time ago, some of you don't even remember it, but OJ Simpson was put on trial for murdering his wife, ex-wife, I think, and a friend. And he was found innocent. And when he was found not guilty, the black community was jubilant, jubilant. And white people, myself, right? Oh, those of us who were social wise, were like, how could they be happy that a murderer is going free? How could they be happy this guy killed two people? But it was only later that someone woke me up and said it wasn't that they were happy that a murderer was going free. They were happy because a black man used the system like a white person and won, just like it happens to all white people. Like, think about all the big cases of white men killing their wives, and there's a whole bunch of them, and they get off. But when
Mhm.
it's a black person, the chances of them getting off are so dim and slim. So it was a celebration that the system didn't hurt OJ, didn't take another black man to jail. And I never got that. I never understood that
Mm.
until later, when now I get it. Because
Well,
now, now to see people finally going to jail for things that they did, for cops going to jail for shootings, it all makes sense to me now.
and first of all, thanks for sharing that because I never really saw it from that perspective. I was a little young then, so I remembered
Right.
some of it. And but what was interesting is this part about, yes, while there's this treatment, I guess the message is that we're called to look deeper. They talk about a book, you don't judge a book by its cover. Although
Hmm.
sometimes we do judge a book by its cover.
We
But
always do. We should do.
what prevents us from actually looking deeper at what the greater issue is or the greater problem is, or even looking at, it's not about what somebody looks like, but how do they feel, right? What creates that blinder now? And the thing is, I want everybody to understand the experiences that we have. Like, we cannot be aware of every single situation and every single conflict. I'm learning almost each day as I talk, or each week as I'm talking with entrepreneurs, and I'm talking with people about their businesses and where they want to go, what are the discriminations and the criticisms that they've overcome, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was something that you went through. And the reality is, because we just don't have naturally that awareness. We're taught what we see. We're taught what we experience, and then as we learn more, then we're able to recognize that there's more to the picture. But it's easy to be able to stay on that focus, because what do they teach us to focus on? School, make sure you do your homework, all these different things growing up. So no one person's experience is the salute or the fits all. And that's what happens. We want everybody to be the sameness. Like everybody is
Right.
supposed to be the same. And the reality is we're not the same.
Mhm.
There was I have a really great acronym that I want to share with you for the word rough.
Okay.
When things get rough,
When
because
things
this
get
is a
rough.
rough situation. Right, this
Yeah.
is a rough situation. And so the reason why I talk about this business life harmony is because what do you do when you're having and creating a consistent revenue generating business, and something comes like this and just knocks you off of your feet? And you're just so devastated, and you feel so much for the family, and your heart is so focused on that, and your mind is so focused on it that you can't even see anything else. And this is what happens when um it's almost like the reason why the riots and the protests are becoming larger and larger, and then we're getting these waves, because over time, people can only bounce back so much before they get angry. So it's like, oh my gosh, here's another situation, and everything calms down. And then, oh my gosh, here's another situation. That's like living life on a roller coaster. So the that part about, if we and sometimes if we get so drilled down into it, we can actually become the very thing that we fight. We want to be very cognizant of that. Sometimes if we fight for something, or we try to control the outcome so hard, we can become that very thing. And this acronym that I want to share with you, I think is going to really, this is what helped me on my journey of healing. So I don't get taken down by these things that are happening. I actually know that this isn't going to be something that's not going to happen again. It might, hopefully, and there is hope with helping it alleviate, but there's a bigger purpose and a bigger calling. If you are feeling this, the turmoil of what happened with that, what are you called to do about it? What is your response? Every single one of you have one. So, Trish, are you okay if I share this acronym with y'all?
Totally. I wrote down on my page is it ROUGH? Is that what you
ROUGH. That's it.
Okay, I got it. On the left
All
side I
right.
wrote ROU, so I'm ready for it. I'm ready
And
to
this
go.
is hot off the press. I just got this message this morning, so I hope y'all are ready too.
I love it.
Um,
All right, everybody, get your pens, get your
get your
hands on your
pens.
keyboard, and let's find out
Yes.
this acronym for rough that it will help us to bounce back. So, what's the R
Okay.
stand for?
So the R stands for reclaim your power.
I love
Reclaim
it.
your power. So what happened for me when these situations would happen, I would tell you, like, there's something devastating that happened in the news, and it would take me down energetically for a couple days. I'm a very
Hmm.
big empath. I feel emotions, I feel energy, I understand what those the things that are what people are going through. Sometimes I feel that even more deeper, and there might be some of you listening to that. But reclaiming your power is really about reclaiming your energy, also reclaiming your emotions. Now, there's the power of emotional intelligence. It's almost like I'm recommending that you cultivate emotional wisdom, because um we can't control those things that are happening out there. I kept getting blown away by the things that were happening, and it was taking me down and taking me away from my purpose and my calling, right? But we
Right.
can control how we respond to them. And that's where our greatest power is, in the response. So, um, reclaiming your power and reclaiming pay attention to what can you do within your world, and how can you be able to get your world solid, and then let your love and let your light and your shine radiate out. If I would have continued to get blown away by these things, I would have probably not been here by now,
Yeah.
because it would lead to unwanted behaviors, like drinking and getting angry at people and pushing people away. I had a lot of post traumatic trauma that I had So it's almost like it added on to the trauma. The goal is to be able to take the pressure off
and
and to
and
be
and so reclaiming your power, like, so I'm thinking how I might do that, and let me
okay.
know if this is what you were thinking, is
Um,
I can look for, what's in my life right now that I can say, okay, this is good, I can count on it. This is, I can take a step to, just find something that makes me feel better. Is that what you mean?
so close. So reclaiming your power is not just looking at the things that are good, but also the things that aren't good. Like it's almost creating that peace on all sides of life. It's so easy for us to naturally focus on the things that we can control. But what about the things that we can't, right? Or even where is our energy being focused and fixated so much that it's preventing us from putting that energy where maybe it's intended or supposed to go? Like, or how can you use that energy and that pain and that turmoil that you're feeling and your focus? And how can you use that for the greater good? Those were some of the things that I meant. Um, so what happens, like, so this part also goes down into kind of communication mastery. One of the biggest things that I talked about earlier was this miscommunication. There's this miscommunication when there's an interaction, perhaps maybe when a policeman pulls you over and maybe there's a lot of things that you've been concerned about previous interactions. How does that if we don't even allow it or consciously allow it to? So that's why it's reclaiming the power is getting peace on all sides of your life. We can't control how people are. We can't control the things that are happening. We can control how we respond
Right.
to it. And there's a greater power in responding in a place of stepping into your power to be that light for the community than focusing on the anger that's just going to make your health and everything else and your world just crumble. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I reclaimed my power by starting this show. That's how I felt.
Yes,
I was
exactly.
like, I need to do something. I'm not
I
going to
wish there
go
was a
out,
little reaction button because I would give you a
right?
heart right now.
I think you did. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I had a platform that I wanted to have conversations around this. So that was a way for me to reclaim my power because I felt powerless. And, I could go down and be one of the people carrying a sign and all that stuff, but that wasn't where I wanted to go. So, yes, so I reclaim my power, and that's something we can all do. So I love that.
I'm so glad that you shared that because it's almost like I know what it's like to have felt hopeless, to felt lost, to felt depressed, depleted. Like, what in the world is happening? I can't even function in this. It was almost like the victim. I got caught up a lot
Right.
in the victim mentality. Like, oh my gosh, this could be my nephew, this could be my son. All of these different things.
Yes.
And then you can transform it into that. Reclaiming your power allows you to transform it into that victorious you. So
Absolutely.
so what's really cool about, you just gave the perfect example about the show. This is giving a voice to what's going to make the whole world victorious. And it's going to probably be, or not even probably, it definitely is going to be even bigger than you could even imagine. So I'm glad that you're doing this.
Yes,
Okay.
me too. Okay, what's the O?
O stands for own your uniqueness. Own your uniqueness. Okay. So a lot of times we want to fit in, right?
Mm,
We want to be treated equal. We want people to be able to see us for who we are, right? Well, the reality is it's not even about them seeing your who you really are. It's about, first of all, you seeing who you really are, allowing your your natural life purpose, your natural gifts and talents to be able to shine through. This is your uniqueness. There's no one in the world. A lot of times we talk about, this is why I love WPN, co-opetition, working together. There is no one with the same knowledge, skills, experiences, and backgrounds as you. So there's no competition. The only one is what you create. This is what one of the things I usually hear from some of the new coaches is, well, Dr. Heather, there's so many coaches out there. How am I going to be able to put my message out there? I'm like, listen, you don't have to worry about what they're doing. That's awesome what they're doing. I want you to focus on what you're doing and who you are, and own that. Who are you called to be? What are you called to do? And let that lead to what you're called to have in your life. And you will see that you can collaborate with some of the, I want y'all to collaborate with each
Mm-hmm.
other. And that's where it comes from, is first owning your uniqueness, your piece to the masterpiece. So when we all come together, we're called to be united, right? The word in Hawaiian that stands for lokahi, united. We're called to be united. And yet right now there's so much division.
Right.
But if everybody, imagine a world where everybody owned their uniqueness, and the U stands for unleash your greatness.
Mm.
Unleash your greatness. Imagine a world where everyone owned their uniqueness and unleashed their greatness and came from a place of unconditional love for one another, because there's so much joy in them. How awesome would that be?
That would be awesome. And the thing is, though, is that that it all sounds really good, but right now we're in this world of comparison culture. If you look at social media, everybody's trying to be the best they can be and put their happy faces forward. I love what you're saying about being authentically you, about being the ballerina who's upside down when everybody else is standing up, right? It takes practice. It takes practice, and that's one of the things I love about what both of us do. With Women's Prosperity Network, there's a community of people who are supporting you to be that person who can embrace their uniqueness and unleash who they are in the world. And you're doing the same thing in your work. You're showing people how to have what they want in their lives. You're certifying people to become coaches so they can help other people do that. I think and I'm sure you'll agree, it's probably really important in this comparison culture to have a community of people, to be surrounded by people who have the same thoughts as you, who can lift you up, because owning your uniqueness and unleashing your greatness takes some confidence, right?
Takes a lot of confidence, takes a lot of self-esteem, takes a lot of wisdom. That part about it's only until recently I realized the total significance and value of what was going on. I started an Aloha Mastermind, which is a family for coaches and practitioners, earlier this year, and it was because I knew that for those of you that who've gone through great battles, who've gone through great challenges, that unleashing your greatness and owning your uniqueness, that's not an easy task. It's safer to play small than it is to, or try to fit in, than it
Right.
is to stand out. And the thing is, why try to fit in when you were born to stand out? Now, granted, I say these things because I used to be that person. Oh, I just want to, you know, get my good job, be great, and then I realized, no, there's more to life than that. And
Mhm.
the thing is, like, so you're probably wondering, well, how do you even do this? How do you even go to be able to get to that part? And that's when I learned that it really is about reclaiming your power of your mind. It's possible. It has a lot to do with healing. In order to know where you're going, you got to be able to have that awareness and clarity of where you've been, even with the not just the generational trauma, but also the traumas that we've experienced in our community, and maybe even the trauma that you've experienced in your life. Now, it is possible to heal the past, to separate and remember the things that have happened, but not be so emotionally weighed down by it. What does this do? It frees your mind, body, and souls. It gives yourself permission to heal. Heal the past, live in the present, have a bigger vision for the future. Now, when the in the world of coaching, it's almost like I would see so many people that would get a certification and would be doing so be motivated at the class, and as soon as they got back home, life started to happen again. Well, it's about overcoming those battles and not knowing that you're not alone and that you have support around you, because we're not called to do business or do anything alone. We're actually called, like I said, to be connected. So
Yeah.
even though it's not easy, it actually leads into what the G is for.
Which is,
Give it to God.
mm,
Whatever that means for you. Like, I know we have a whole variety of people with different faiths and different beliefs, and the reality is it's all beautiful, because as long as you find out what that belief is and having your faith, letting your faith overcome your fear, let your love rise above every fear, you know um there's so much that we can do on our own, but you got to also recognize where your weaknesses are. Where my weaknesses are, my God fills it with his strength. And then I know, okay, I can be in the flow. It creates that less thinking and overthinking and anxiety, where sometimes people can't have sleeping issues or they can't even turn their mind off. What if you could be able to have that less trusting or less thinking, more trusting,
more trust.
that peace of mind, body and soul? Our greatest wealth is our peace of mind, body, and soul, really.
Yeah.
And that peace within will automatically manifest the peace with others. It'll allow us to better communicate, better see where other people are coming from. It's easy for people to lash out. Like if someone lashes out at you, and this is what we kind of one of the things I saw even in the Aubrey Ahmad case, because there's this interaction. These guys are coming to you and they're ready to try to do a citizen's arrest.
Right.
And of course, he had naturally reacted like, "What the heck are you doing?" Right?
Right.
Trying to fight them off, fending for his life. But what if instead of reacting out of that fear or uncertainty, what if he was able to know like something's wrong with these people and be in that place of calm when that interaction came? How would that outcome have been different? Let me give you another example, Trish. So, it was probably later when right before I was about to leave Orlando, we were in a hit and run accident the day we were supposed to leave. And I had left to go for a drive that night because I just wanted to figure out like what in the world is happening. And I pulled over into this library where I usually um where I usually I used to teach at. And so I parked there for a moment and I saw a police officer and he had a car pulled over. So immediately I felt safe. I'm like, oh, okay, we're good. So I'm sitting there about 5 minutes and I'm like, okay, talking to God, figuring out what to do. And I'm getting ready to leave. And then the police officer has his lights on behind me. And he comes up to the car, no hello, no anything. What are you doing here? You've been sitting here for a hot minute. Can I search your vehicle? Those were the exact words. Now, before learning about how my mind worked and reclaiming that power and doing communication mastery and NLP, that would have triggered the anger in me.
Right.
And that would have caused me to lash out at him.
It just
For
triggered anger in me, and it wasn't even my situation.
exactly. But my response was, well, I was sitting here, it's been a pretty long day. And no, you are not allowed to search my vehicle. You have no probable cause. I teach here. So I was really calm in my interaction with him. But he was trying to trigger the anger in me.
Yeah. Well, he was trying to intimidate you.
Right. But then it's interesting because then I thought, well, what if that was my husband in this situation in the middle of the night? And my husband would have probably wanted to lash out at him, like, what the heck is wrong with you? But so we can control the person. that has the greater flexibility in the communication can actually can influence and make a better impact in the conversation, even if the other person is just ridiculous. So of course, after a while, it was like, I ended up filing an internal affairs investigation on him because I was like, this was ridiculous. Um, and he pretty much, he's like, well, I was like, no, I can give you my license. I gave him my license for him to research, but I think his approach to me was totally wrong, and that's what I based that on. Um, but it didn't go anywhere. How many of people have complained to the police officer or about the police officers about situations, and it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Or it might go up one or two people and they give you a call back, but the chief never hears about it, or does he?
Who knows? Who
So
knows? So you got
yes,
to put that to God.
yeah, exactly. Because here's what happened. Me and my husband, we actually went on this rabbit trail, and the more that we went on the rabbit trail trying to figure out what happened to the accident, the responses of the accident, 2 days after the gentleman hit and ran our car, he hit and critically injured a 14-year-old girl,
Oh my
and the
gosh.
state police responded to that, not the local police. They didn't communicate. So we uncovered all of these just holes in the whole system. And we're like, we could continue down this path.
But how does that serve you?
Exactly. Or we can let this go and focus on what we're called to do.
Yeah, exactly. Reclaim your power. And that's one of the ways you reclaim your power is let it go and focus on what you're supposed to be focusing on. And
Right.
that's not always so simple. I know.
No,
What's
it's not hard to let go of stuff. Okay.
no. What's 8?
Okay. H is heaven on earth is possible for
Say that
everyone.
again.
Heaven on earth is totally possible
I love that.
for all. For all.
Gee,
There's hope, there's healing, not just for some. There is love. And here's the thing. Darkness cannot penetrate light, but light can penetrate darkness. So, that letting our sometimes we have that fear of letting our light shine, like it's safe to stay small. No, it's time to let the light shine. Our greatest. Have you ever heard of this poem by Marion Williamson on our deepest fear?
yeah. It's not that we are, uh, I can't remember the first line, but it's not that we are powerless. It's that we are, um, gosh, I used to know it
I
by
got
heart.
it
It's
here. It's
that,
okay. I'm gonna read it.
yeah,
I'm
what
gonna
is
read
it?
part of
What
it.
is it? Say it.
Okay. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate.
There
Our
you go.
deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God, and your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We're born to manifest, to make the glory of God that is within us. It is not just for some of us, it's for everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Me too.
Yeah, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
So, big picture in all these situations, what is the claim? I feared for my life. I was afraid of this other person. See, a lot of these things are representations of fear
Hmm.
operating out of instead of unconditional love
Right.
operating, and based on what we assume as compared to what is.
I heard you say earlier, I wrote it down, let your love rise above.
Every fear, every fear.
Oh,
I mean, it's almost like I grew up a life of just fearful for that in so many different ways. And you get to a point, think about it, you get to a point where you're like, am I going to continue to be fearful? Am I going to continue to try to stuff this down and not express and not talk? Our voice is our greatest asset, yet oftentimes it's um it's the
Sure.
biggest thing to shut down.
It's the fear of being rejected, the fear of being made fun of, the fear of sounding stupid, the fear of not looking good, the
Yeah,
fear of
let go of all
being
that.
wrong.
Yes. And the list goes on and on. The fear of
Yeah,
failure, the fear of success. Fear is all about, yes, that false evidence appearing real, and it makes you want to forget everything and run. But the goal of fear, if you can change this in your mindset to facing everything and rising,
right.
so therefore you can really feel everything and relax, and eventually you'll just be able to relax into your prosperity and your calling. This is why I love
Oh,
entrepreneurship.
I like that. Fear everything. I mean, feel everything and relax. That's what you said, right?
Yeah, feel everything and relax.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the power of entrepreneurship. How, if we're fearful of other people, what if we just focused on the fear within ourselves and we faced that and we created this wisdom that this prosperity for all is possible, because where there was people who are oppressed or depressed or people made you feel less than, I get it, because I used to be feeling that way too, but the
Mhm.
reality is we're actually all more than, we're so much more than what we give ourselves credit for. When we step into our value, this is where you can be able to confidently charge what you're worth. All of these little residual things that happen from when we're like working for someone else, when we're employee, when we shift into an entrepreneur mindset, we have to let go of all of these different things. It's the same thing from going from being a victim of racial discrimination and stuff like that. Okay, how can we go from that to be an empowered being, that we're going to have to let go of other people's judgments and perceptions? Who the freak cares? In the final analysis, the biggest question is going to be between you and God. It's not going to be between you and other people. People are going to have their assumptions, what they think about you. And yes, what is more important? What God says about you and what you say about you versus what other people say about you. So let your light shine. Be the most amazing self. Now is the time. If you have a calling for your life and you're living your purpose, but then maybe there's some resistance there, it's time to be able to break that ceiling so you can really go to another level and step into everything that God's called you to be, and do everything God's called you to do, and have everything that you called to have in your life. Working smarter and not harder for time, money, and emotional freedom. The more that you receive, the more that you can give.
Oh
I'm
my
a
God, you are so wise. You are so wise, Dr. Heather Tucker. Oh my God. All
Thank
right. So
you.
here we go again. RUF, the acronym for RUF. Reclaim your power. Own your uniqueness. Unleash your greatness. Give it to God, the universe, Allah, whoever is a higher power than you. And then heaven on earth is totally possible for all. You have just dropped me so many nuggets. You said feel everything and relax for fear, and let your love rise above the fear. And then this thing you said heal the past, live in the present, and then you said be optimistic about the future.
Oh, that's really good. So heal the past in order
Yes,
to live in the present and have a bigger and create a bigger vision for your future.
bigger
See,
vision.
most people live in the past. Not most people. A lot of people either live in the past or in the future.
Yeah,
But the past is already gone. There's nothing we can do about it. The worrying about the future and what tomorrow is going to bring and living in all that uncertainty just creates more stress and overwhelm. The thing that we can control is today. The thing that today is what we have. So just for today, do not anger. Just for today, don't worry. Just for today, be at peace. Think about how to cultivate those fruits of the spirit, so therefore you can really be able to see what's going on, and know that timing is always perfect.
yeah,
It's always perfect.
yeah. It is. Dr. Heather, thank you so much for being
Thank
with me
you for
today
having
because
me. This was
this
awesome.
conversation starts off a little dingy as we're looking at what's happening in our world. And thank you for bringing it back to what can I do? Well, who am I? How can I get my power back? How can I not be taken down by events around me? And there are lots of them all the time. And I so
Thank you.
appreciate you being here. Thank you for
Mm,
sharing your
I
truth. Thank you
appreciate you
for
too.
schooling us, my friend. I really
Totally
feel
my pleasure.
I learned so
So
much from you
you're so
today.
welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. I'm grateful to be able to share. We're called to share and express, and I appreciate you giving me the space to do that. And it's my desire to inspire and support people in their next level. I mean, it's like it just gets better and better. I look at life as just getting better and better. Before I used to want it to be like, oh my gosh, when is it going to end? And now I'm like, yeah, bring it on. And that's possible for everyone. I know if I can do it, anybody can do it.
You are an inspiration. Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here. And thank you all for watching today and for sharing this message. Thank Dr. Heather. I'm going to have a
Thank
great day
you.
now. That was
You
so
too.
inspiring. I appreciate you all. Thank you for being here. Make sure you share. Please give me a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about what you can do when things are rough and Dr. Heather's acronym. And I look forward to seeing all of you again and for another Sister to Sister. Thank you all. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Bye.
Bye bye, everybody.